Check, check. That's good. 1, 2. Direct mic here. Think we're good? All right.
Yeah,
Great.
I'll let you guys. Why don't we start with you, David? Introduce yourselves and talk a little bit about what your firm or your project.
Sure. So, hi, everybody. I'm David Waxman, the founder and CEO of Waxman, which is the first and largest communications firm in the industry. Excited to be here with one of my close friends, Chris. This event, by the way, that you guys are hosting is phenomenal. I've got to say, the crowd and the energy here are amazing, and this is what a marketer's dream.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, as you know, we've been working on this for quite a while, and I think they've done a great job for building the Tide brand and also just getting folks like us together. And this is thank you for coming to Wales Tales, because this was kind of a big experiment for us for marketers. So thanks again, everyone who's here.
I'm Nicolas Boggi. I'm CMO at the Baking Churchian Labs team. I work at Cosmos, the Cosmos of the system. So if you know the things past the Cosmos stack, IBC, and all the other base primitives that have been around for 10 years at this point. So find a marketer's challenge, I'd say, to sustain a pan as old as that. Super excited to be here. Again, wonderful profession from you guys. It's beautiful event. Always nice to deal with Waxman as well. David, I told you it's a pleasure to see you twice in a month already. A rare treat.
2 different cities.
Yes, New York and now Denver.
I'm Steve Caputo. I'm a head of brand at Magic Labs. We pioneered embedded wallets back in 2017. And that was announced at ETH Denver. And we're back at ETH Denver to announce Magic Newton, which is the trust layer for autonomous finance. And excited to talk a little about that and be up here with these great gentlemen.
So the idea for this panel actually came out from a conversation Dave and I were having a few weeks ago when we were catching up, basically talking about hey, what's going to happen? We have this new president and a major change in kind of the way the U.S. government's been looking at crypto. And I think everyone here who's been a crypto marketer for a long time knows, especially on the token side, how hard it's been to sort of market and talk about your tokens and your projects. And even someone like me on the data side, like we'd often get blocked from just putting out ads, even though we had nothing to do with a token. And so that was kind of the idea for that. And then also with the emergence of AI, right, we think it's actually going to be a really killer year for crypto in 2025. And so with that, I kind of want to kick it off. Can we start talking a little bit about the legislation slide? Can I throw it to you, David? Talk about that?
Yeah, so look, things have been very interesting, but I think it's important for us to take a look at the state of affairs before. So let's look a few months ago. We're going to call this during a different administration. There was an opacity at minima in terms of what the regulatory atmosphere was for marketing crypto tokens or even crypto-related services. So back in 2019, early 2019, Waxman lost his JP Morgan Chase bank account. I even lost my personal account also through them. Why? Because we applied for a line of credit and we were approved, but then they eventually did a deep dive and realized that we work with crypto companies. And for that reason alone, our bank account went away. And it's very hard to do marketing when you don't have a bank account to pay your staff or to pay rent. So that was obviously a very different set of regulation with 0.2.0. But even in terms of the art of what we do, I've been very afraid as an American with my name on the door to do things like KOL marketing, which we've heard a lot about, any sort of advertising, and even a lot of public relations work where the concern is that we, even as the marketers, might be responsible and possibly go to jail for saying something wrong when we didn't even have a clear rule set of what right was. So this is the state of play essentially entirely, and it's across the entire industry. And I can speak for kind of all of our clients too. They were the same bind. So fast forward, it's 2025. Trump is now in power. We're going to have we have an acting SEC chair. We have a new SEC chair coming in who's been nominated, who is pro-crypto. We have a pro-crypto CFTC, 100%. That's not to say that they're going to be letting token issuers and promoters get away with fraud. The opposite. I think there's going to be lots of enforcement actions against fraud. But for the first time, we're going to have clear rules. And one particular I think we should highlight, which is, I believe, more tokens than Bitcoin will be considered commodities. And that is an unlocked moment in this industry that is woefully underappreciated so far.
I mean, David, I couldn't agree more. I mean, look, I think that's going to really drastically change the opportunities for everyone in this room to actually really market and talk about their tokens the way they haven't been able to before. When do you guys want to expand a little bit on? Do you want to expand a little bit on that on the commodities part of that?
On the first point, like ambiguity, as you say, like we always say, the devil is in the details, etc. Marketing in the context of legal ambiguity is constantly walking a thin line that you don't know where it is, right? So you just kind of like squiggle yourself around this line, and specifically in the U.S., where a lot of legislations are set by precedent, that line could change in like a day. And suddenly all the approaches that you took or your messaging is completely obsolete, jurisdictional legally wise, and suddenly you have to close your doors to a market. Hell, even me as a user, I'm here in the US, half of my applications are blocked out. I cannot use
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. I mean, it's true. We are geo-blocked for good reason. In fact, it's probable that you've been doing marketing for something that said we can't have American users. How frightening is that? That's the largest capital market in the world. I understand it's 3 or 4% of the world population, but like 20+% of the world's GDP, you couldn't market to.
Yep, tremendous impact, and also it's the fact that we have one of the key points. It's very close to you, which is how do we get to actual consumer usage, and that's the ones that usually are geo-blocked, restricted, and sort of blocked out of these experiences that we are trying to put in front of the constant basis.
I mean, it's tricky because most trusted brands are built over time. But we're in a climate now where you have to quickly ramp up, go to market, adjust to the new regulatory environment, and convince people to trust you. But you can't tell people to trust you because that's the least trustworthy thing you can say, especially in marketing. So,
yeah, trust me is equivalent to fuck you.
Exactly. You walk away from that car salesman or even someone trying to sell you a T-shirt with that line, right? So you have to build trust quickly. You have to, I think, start your conversation with your legal team about what the parameters are. Because if you bring the work to legal to approve it, you have to strip things away, right? If you're selling and shilling something, and the lawyers say it's all approved, you just have to pull out what you're selling and shilling. You got nothing left. So you have to kind of start from a place of what can we say, and then you have to do the right thing, which is how every trusted brand has won over, especially a mass market, is. Do you prove that you're doing the right thing through your actions and how you communicate and live up to what you said? So in some ways, you're going back to the origins of marketing and the principles of how the first products were ever marketed. And in others, you're stepping into an unknown future with no tightrope, without a pair of shoes, and just rolling the dice.
And what can you really say, right? Because you are crafting messaging, you're preparing to explain to the world what your product is. And let's think of the golden scenario, right? Let's pull away from the term shilling, meaning like mindless promotion of something. In many cases, tokens are a real part of the technology that's built about what's it, right? They provide a use case item, they provide security, a layer. When you need to strip language out of that story, suddenly going to market becomes increasingly difficult because you are hiding the terms away from what the thing really is.
Indeed. I mean, for example, and this is, again, likely a security. Again, we're not all lawyers here, but how many times have you heard the word yield used in crypto? And if you aren't allowed to use the word yield or talk about yield whatsoever, you're not actually able to talk about the thing that exists. And that's a marketer's night.
Okay, so we got a room full of marketers here, right? So if this is actually happening, how can they take advantage of these changes? Like, what should they really be doing? What kind of tactics should they be thinking about? How should they be crafting their narratives out there to really get engagement with their tokens?
Personally, I think the first thing everyone should do is find lawyers that are actually good, because the vast majority of lawyers will charge you $1,000, $1,200, $1,500 an hour to learn about your market and then tell you can't do anything. And I think we've seen a lot of that in crypto. The ones that actually understand the tech and are insightful enough to see kind of what's coming can give you some sort of certainty and latitude. Like, here's the box within which you can be creative. And that's something you were just talking about that, Steve. It's a very, very challenging thing to get, but it starts with having good lawyers. So talk to your lawyers like ASAP and then ask them probing questions, because they're not marketers. In fact, they're typically terrible marketers. So ask them very specific things like, can I say this? If this happens, can I say this? If this other thing occurs, can I market to this group, for example? If, for example, the definition of an accredited investor changes, which is very possible in this new administration in this over the next year or two, what does that mean? Am I allowed to send direct notes to someone who might be today earning less than the threshold for accredited investors? So I think the more specific you can get in terms of questions to lawyers, the more creative we marketers can be.
I actually couldn't agree more with that.
From my angle, your partners and the people you interact with in terms of your project with this, meaning, the possibility of marketing opening up, suddenly unlocks the use cases that you integrate with them or build with them to be at the surface level of the products, right? There's a lot of Web3 applications that exist today, like anywhere. I'm not going to say like Walmart or like top level brands in the normal world that we inhabit, like Chili's. But a lot of banking institutions use it for cross-border payments. A lot of other very, very high throughput by high value transfer driven use cases. And they're just not vocal about it because they're scared. And as you say, the main advice of lawyers will always be just, okay, 0% risk. And this shift will slowly start to see, hopefully, the users and adopters that bring the mass adoption scaled use cases to the table be more public a lot because they actually exist. A lot of governments are tokenizing a lot of their infrastructure, or they are tokenized registries. Asia is leading in this prominently with Cosmos in Korea, for example, or Japan with Pragmat Swift using a blockchain version of Swift for USDT stablecoin transfers. But until the regulations catch up and give them, the green light, they're not going to be very public about it. But the second the green light is here, it is our job to work with them to make them feel comfortable, to put that up front, because it has a lot of benefits. So.
Well, then that makes me wonder something else, and actually for all of you guys. So let's say there's some regulatory certainty. I'm riffing off your answer, Nico. And suddenly brands are okay, like non-crypto brands are fine saying that they work in crypto. Maybe there's some sort of trust for our industry overall. What does that mean in terms of going after retail users of crypto products? Like if Starbucks is okay associating itself with crypto, again, not just the failed NFT platform. And what do you think is going to happen? Like, do you think there's going to be big brands pushing out crypto-related products?
Well, I think when people talk about going mass and retail, they assume people are going to want things to be very simple and conservative, right? And I think that's partially true. Some people say, I want to do this for creative, higher risk investing. You keep 90%, you give me 10%. I don't want to touch it, right? Like I'm just interested in outside gains. But some people are going to say, I want to personally invest. I want to go extremely high risk. I come from a betting and gaming kind of mindset. So retail doesn't only mean like normal, conservative, crypto as a mutual fund. Retail is actually a spectrum of, I think, as many people as you see in crypto now is just scaling up a number of people in each market segment, right? So we're talking about marketing to as wide of a segment with normies or retail as we are about as we ever have been at work. So I think that's the reality of it. You have to set
the demographic you think evolves.
I think the demographic is everyone, and you have to figure out who you're targeting, and you have to segment the messaging much more creatively. So you can't be boring. You can't cookie cutter the same message to everyone. But then you have to be a brand that is, be here you're coming from, you won the difference. Oh, boy, over here you would have dived all the way. And so how do you build a brand like that? It's a different kind of brand. Nike always says the foundation is that everyone with a body is an athlete. Brilliant, inspiring message, right? And that's why Nike features so many different athletes from so many different cultures, so many different levels of play, right? But it's also a brilliant sales angle, because if everyone with a body is an athlete, we're selling a lot of sneakers and a lot of hoodies and a lot of t-shirts and a lot of leotards. So I think that you need that kind of rigor building a brand today, that kind of understanding of sales and marketing and the breadth of the audience and the global opportunity.
So it sounds like we're actually going to go back to actually doing marketing. For real. Like,
Wouldn't that be nice?
okay, why don't we shift the conversation a little bit? I think we covered the legislature part of it pretty well. I want to talk a little bit about AI and how we think AI is going to play and really sort of change the narrative also. Again, I think it's affected a lot of industries, but for marketing specifically and for crypto marketers to really take advantage of this. And I know just personally as a crypto marketer, I've taught, and people have been here most of the day, I've not heard me shut up talking about AI and what we've been doing with AI at the time. But I kind of want to hear about what you guys think, how you think it's going to shift, and what tools and things that you're using right now that you think will really be effective for you going into 2025.
So for me, one part that is exciting and sort of compounds upon the idea that marketing will become a little bit more open regulation-wise in Web3. Programmatic advertising, programmatic adverts in all formats, meaning IRL, adverts in the street, to X and other social medias and platform. So today they are hyper restricted. Of course, you have to fill up like 150 forms to be able to prove that you're not just a DeFi platform trying to make promotions. Even for us, project based on infrastructure and or open source libraries. With that free and opening that part up, we can sort of take advantage of all the advertising tools that are now using AI to auto-optimize your mix, right? So before, it was like a very dull job that we all shared a little bit, which is you sit, you watch your campaign grow day by day, and then you choose what variation.
Just assuming your campaign isn't taken down by one of these platforms at some point, which happened too.
That's not going to happen now.
From your mouth to God's ears. Yeah. But, with AI at least, probably you could get a little heads up that if it's taken down, and otherwise it can auto-optimize. It's kind of like auto-compounding in DeFi, but for our ads, where you don't have to sit and monitor it every day, and you can just have that job be hyper-scaling.
I mean, for me, it's, look, AI is not going away. AI agents are going to go from being like a gimmick to being something we all use. There's a good chance we don't use apps and interfaces anymore. You're just using an AI agent that's customized to do exactly what you want to do, right? So then there's a paradox there too, right? And everything's a paradox to me right now. So for an AI agent to really do what you want it to do, right, which is more than you ever could as a human being, faster, be in more places, you have to give it freedom. You have to let it run wild. You have to say, just go, go, go. Like, do the thing, right? Plan a trip, invest, like, go crazy. Like, otherwise I can do it myself. You're not going to trust it unless there are guardrails around that AI agent that you control, right? It can't have permission to access your JP Morgan Chase account, which I hope you got back by now.
Had to switch banks, but you know what? I think I've got enough PTSD. I'm not going back to Chase.
So whatever the bank, you certainly don't want the AI agent to have a blank check to be able to do what it wants. But you also don't want it to wait 7 days for you to approve a transaction, or else we're back in the fiat wire transfer world. So it's a paradox. You need to find a way to give these agents a code of law that makes them able to be very creative and free, and also that you always know exactly what permissions on-chain you've entitled them to do. So it's freedom and control in this weird hybrid, and the companies that figure out how to do that are the companies that people will trust, because that's the way you earn trust, that I can do what I want with this thing, and it's never going to do anything I didn't let it. So that's the dream of artificial intelligence, and that's whoever figures that out wins, and whoever only has part of that, right? Running wild, takes all your money, loses. Or it's boring, it's just like Siri for investing, loses. So it's nice, Siri.
If it was Siri for investing, he'd be telling you to buy FTX right now.
Exactly. Okay, let's expand a little bit. I want to talk about AI content creation. Actually, I'm going to start with you, David, as a super communicator, to get your thoughts on that, right? Are you using ChatGPT?
All the time. I personally use it mostly to look things up. It's simply a better tool than Google. And if you're willing to trust Wikipedia, you should almost trust the content that comes out of ChatGPT, and that's getting better all the time as the source. But it's a great place to initially take a brief on something. And since what we do all day is work with the most pioneering and next level technologies and companies that are making use of them, it's probably good to go and get a synthetic briefing made up instantaneously before a call when you have 400 calls with it. But that's the content creation I think that I'm really excited about, is essentially content creation, automated content generation by agents and by some of these models that can let me replace junior level staff. Now, I know that sounds foreboding, but the reality is when clients hire Waxman, they're looking for senior counsel and they're looking for certain deliverables. The senior counsel, I think, is not replaceable, certainly anytime soon, but I do think some of the grunt work is. I think it's grunt work that no one actually wants to do. And I've made this promise to our teams all over the world. Waxman's located in the US and Europe and in Asia, that everyone's job is not only safe for now. I just think we're going to hire fewer juniors in the future, junior level people in the future. And that should make all of the current people that work at Waxman and the new people we're going to hire, their lives easier and better, and let them use their IQ points and flex those mental muscles to really give great advice to our clients based on an array of probably synthetically generated data.
As you were saying before, it's a matter of the inputs, right? Whatever inputs you give it, it can help scale your thinking and your creativity and your senior reasoning, so to speak, so that you can do that prep work and execution much faster. And that's where I see that little bridge of it's an extension of marketers today, where maybe you can use it at different stages of your process for content creation. Specifically, in our case, we use it usually for information wrangling at the beginning of the pod. Because let's be honest, like today, there are way better search engines like Google. I don't know what's happening with search engines overall, but it's an unfathomable experience. And then afterwards, with the curation that it can provide on top of that data, you can work so much better. You can do your creative on top of it. It doesn't have to be like, oh, it's so less down because it's an AI out. No, it can give you all the pieces that you need. That usually takes you 3 to 4 or 5 hours to process to then execute your creative campaign on top of it. And that saves so much here. So much work.
And from design, just like image creation, it's incredible how fast it can generate, at the very least, a starter, right? Something quick and dirty, and then make 400 versions of that. And then one of those might be good enough that maybe you bring to it a human designer to optimize and make it closer to your brand. I'm sure it's something you think about all the time.
Yeah, I found one area that I think is really interesting is if you have people on your team who have less experience but like passion and hunger and drive, that AI can really help them articulate what they're trying to say and build confidence. So I have someone on the team who doesn't consider herself a good writer. She is a good writer, but just doesn't have the confidence yet. But when she used ChatGPT to help build a brief for a project we were working on, she felt really good about it. And it was a great brief. It was a little long. I said, like, just tell ChatGPT, like, they get like 1/4 of the length in your jaw. And it, by the way, great prompt. Just make it shorter. Always sound smarter. So that's language.
Everyone, we just wanted to let you know our last call will be at 4 p.m.
Last call.
Have a good evening.
Last call for alcohol.
Yeah, exactly. Just wait till the panel's over.
$2 Jaeger.
We'll give you a quick break.
We didn't get the s'mores.
But the other one is that so then she was doing a good job, and I said I want you to lead on the visuals and help with the booth this year because you have this passion. You've been working really hard. The booth's a big thing for us. Stop by the booth if you're at the
It's crazy. You were showing me pictures earlier. I can't wait to see it.
So thank you. So she said, there's one thing I think it could have a different look. I said, use ChatGPT. So she used ChatGPT to tell it how she wanted, to tell the designers how she thought the merge section could look. And what came out was she spent a lot of time on it. But what came out was so good. And it's almost note for note what these super professional, Broadway show designing experts created or were inspired by what she did with ChatGPT. Just as she had the drive and the passion, but she didn't know, she would never know how to Photoshop that. So you didn't replace anyone in that situation. You actually took someone talented but new and gave them the confidence to lead. And that's pretty exciting.
And to play, against your passport, kind of a paradox because everybody says like AI can make creative media solos, right? It takes away the creative process, but it's also beautiful in the sense of accessibility. A lot of people have beautiful ideas. They have beautiful pictures in their mind. I always say like marketing is something that as a career is tremendously accessible. And these tools, for example, AI tooling within Photoshop itself takes a lot of the technical effort and knowledge that you need to be able to execute the things that you have on your mind, right? And that's super powerful. Ours, a lot of teammates are. Wow.
So, okay, we've talked about content creation with AI. We went pretty deep on that. So I want to ask you guys about something a little bit different. So one thing we've been playing a lot with agentic AI to do actually intelligence gathering, and I'm wondering if you guys are doing anything like that. So for example, what we're doing is we basically, Tyler on my team actually set this up, where we're basically taking our competitors' newsletters and pulling that content, aggregating, and seeing what the sort of narratives are that they're actually putting out there, so we can track what it is that they're putting out there in the ecosystem. So I want to know if you guys are doing anything like that in that kind of vein.
I'm no commenting on this one, folks.
I think the use of agents or custom agents in that capacity is very powerful. Of course, in media, it's like getting all wires all together and summed up efficiently. I wonder if it's a dream. And in my case, it is. For competitive analysis, it's wonderful. Like today, the amount of projects that go out to the ecosystem on a daily basis is something that I cannot personally keep track of. And having agents configured to, for example, keep me up to speed of that, whatever I need to, is already like a 10x.
I mean, I know for us at Magic, we think AI agents are replacing apps. You'll go to the App Store, you'll go to this series of agents, so there's options of new agents and decide what works for you. And we think that'll be the new, it won't all work. So most of them will fail just like early app stores. Some will go on to be ubiquitous and change the way you do everything. You won't use a website or you won't call or text anymore, and it'll be completely different. Right now it's all chat-based mostly. People think LLM and chat-based AI agents, I think. But that's not the only way, conversational AI is peak. I've been using the conversational chat GPT. Fun. It's pretty fun. Yeah. And once it's a little smarter, maybe, and the right developers say, I'm going to create the next great app, but abstract away the app interface and you're just interacting with the agent. I think that's the future of agents, if it's coming a lot sooner than we think.
Okay, so last question, and then I'll also throw it to the room if anyone has any questions. But okay, so you got a room full of marketers again, right? For what can these marketers do to take advantage of this convergence of AI and legislation? Just real quick, what's the key thing that they should do?
Well, when it comes,
Besides hire you, David.
no, definitely don't. No, don't do that. Hire a lawyer. I said that earlier. I mean that's the first thing. It's a brave new world. The things you thought were restrictions before may not be restrictions tomorrow. This is a really big deal. And that unlock moment that I was talking about earlier, just the commodities element is just one of them. Is the type of thing that should inspire you to try to get creative. And then you can look at types of campaigns that were just impossible or implausible in crypto before, and you can finally take advantage of them now. Maybe you should use an AI tool to generate some new ideas. But no, I think it really comes down to you can finally be creative, and that's blessed.
I think it starts with the lawyer. I'm going to piggyback right on that. I think get a great lawyer, get someone from Meta or somewhere that's had to deal with different regions and different laws and also have a global brand. Get a lawyer who's smart and creative, who can write and generate concepts with your team. Like for us, we sit with legal, whether we're learning the comms and the legal rules, to ask creative questions about, can we say it like this? Can I say it like that? Why could we say it like this at phase 1 of the project, and phase 2 we can't? And then we have the lawyers in the creative meetings in the early briefing. We don't bring them work that's baked. We have them in early to have them give ideas. And you need a lawyer who can ideate and be creative. But most of the time, if someone's got that bigger experience for a bigger brand, they've seen so much good and bad work across their desk. They have a lot of strong opinions about what works in markets. And, get someone like that you trust, that has a good collaborative style, and everything happens in a fraction of the time, and you have way more fire rate.
Do you have one, Steve? Because I know they're really hard to find.
Derek's coming in Friday, or else he'd be here now. But Derek is in Friday, so we'll be reviewing everything, and really seriously seeing what he thinks of the work and the booths and people's messaging and what he thinks is resonating and why. And then I can okay, I understand you a little better. So yeah, I'm on the legal team and he's on the brand team.
I think that's amazing advice, because actually having someone have to deal with lots of lawyers as well, it's really hard to find the right ones.
It's very complicated. I'll be the third one and last to say, get good lawyers, please, for the love of God. But one of the things I'm super excited about this change, and I'll point specifically at regulations, it's that I think that a lot of the language that we use in Web3 and Web3 marketing today is codified to fit the situation we're in, both creatively, as you said, and regulatory-wise, right? So I dream to see like the aftermath of this regulatory change and start to see more natural language for what we market, because half of the complications of a marketing of Web3 itself is this codification.
Let's give an example. TGE, these 3 letters. So these were essentially invented in 2017 when ICO was a dangerous term of art. And it's a clunky, awful phrase that again has become normalized because we had no option, or so we thought. And by the way, lawyers will tell you that there's no protection for your project because you're having a TGE versus an ICO. But again, this is just kind of what happens with these buzzwords. They pop up and suddenly it's... in any event, you're right. Let's get rid of these types of things. Let's have a campaign to use normal language so people can understand what we do and what our clients do. What our products do.
Invest in my token.
Yeah, maybe not that. That might be one bridge too far.
Okay, does anyone in the room have questions for this group? Chris says, come on, I know you have a question. Okay, thanks. Thanks,
They
everyone.
want to go to the bar.
Yeah, I think everyone's ready to get their drinks. You only have 45 minutes left.
Rushing for the last call.
Okay, thanks. I think we have a quick break coming up, and then I think we have another roundtable and one more panel. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Priscilla.